tell the world who you are and what you do.
Hey everybody, what's good, big dog? This is Andre Williams at Samurai Kennel. And first, I'm a father, I'm a Christian, and I'm a person who likes to serve other people. My occupation that I use to fund my dream is that I'm active duty military, and I've served for close to 14 years. My kennel, Samurai Kennel, has been a dream of mine since I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and I fell in love with the American Pitbull Terrier. And I've used the knowledge and training from traveling around with the military to develop different concepts and methods to training and mentoring other people, as well as having my dogs live a happy life.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty much who I am. Yes, sir.
Very nice. And you are in the Air Force, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'd like to publicly thank you for your service, and everybody drop that in the comments as well, unless you're a schmuck. But we really appreciate your service, my friend, and I can't say that enough. So, what you said, 8 or 9 years old, going back, what caught your interest in dogs in the first place?
All right, so my first interaction with dogs was my grandfather. He raised 13-inch beagles, hound dog. He had pretty much a pack that you would use for like hunting hogs and things of that nature. And so he had actually a bull mastiff named Buster. But Buster was super human aggressive and super animal aggressive. So he was really just kind of a monster, kind of like the dog from the Sandlot, right?
Right.
And so I got a cousin that came home from he was a Vietnam vet that had moved back from Colorado, and he brought an American Pit Bull Terrier with him, and her name was Duchess, and she got loose one day, and I watched her run into a yard, and she kind of like she was trying to get to one of the dogs in the pen, but she couldn't. But the way she moved, every time the dog in the pen would like fence fight her, she would beat it to the next spot. It's like she knew exactly what the dog was doing. She could size him up, and she had his number. You knew if she got inside that pen that it was going to be a wrap, right? And so I was like, what kind of dog is this that could be so nice and like had like a smile when she walked up to me, but was just so ferocious when it came to another animal? And so I became curious, and then I finally, a couple years later, convinced my mom to get me a little backyard bred puppy named Misha, and she really set it off for me. Misha was what in the Pit Bull Terrier world what they call a cur. She didn't really have the animal aggression. She wasn't cold either. But my sister was fussing at me one day, and Misha stepped between my sister and I and kind of like let her know like, hey, like don't yell at my boss like that. And I at the time I didn't understand what protection work was, but I realized that these dogs could love you so much they could decipher between when somebody was being nice to you and when somebody was being like not cool,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that was my staple.
So, how many dogs do you have now?
Right now, I have 2 dogs that I live with. Mm-hmm. My dog Saki is my staple. He is the dream, the vision phase 1.0, and his daughter Kamikaze is the vision 2.0. And so what ended up happening was, and I'll go into that a little bit later in the interview, but what ended up happening was I never intended to have more than 5 dogs at a time, because I don't just want to have dogs on a chain. Each dog I want to be able to perform functions like scent work, protection work, and even basic agility and obedience. Mm-hmm. So it's really hard. It's really difficult to do that with a yard of 30 dogs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I respect that, and actually I second that. I've always said, me personally, I give, big salute to all the guys that can actually handle, large numbers of dogs, but I feel like I would connect more with my dogs if I had fewer of them.
Absolutely.
And really, really bring them to their full potential. So I definitely agree with that. Absolutely. And by the way, the name of your kennel is awesome, and I love the names of the dogs. As we were speaking before, talking about martial arts and all these things, and I'm such a sucker for Asian culture, and especially the the history of the samurai and all these things. So what made you go that direction? What was it, a fascination of, you know, the samurai culture, or break that down a little bit for people?
Oh man, I'm so glad. I'm so glad you asked that. And thank you for broaching that question. So, growing up, I'm from North Carolina originally. Growing up, I grew up watching Bruce Lee kung fu movies, and my favorite movie wasn't actually a kung fu movie, but it was a movie called Shogun Assassin.
I
And it's about
love that
have you
freaking
seen
movie.
it?
I love that movie. I absolutely love that movie.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
the intro alone sends chills up your spine with the little boy talking and everything.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that movie was insane. For you guys that don't know, I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on this, but the full movie was available for free on YouTube at one point, and I'm not gonna lie, I downloaded, I snatched it, and it's such a good movie. For those who don't know, if you can tolerate, you know, the old school, low quality of things, man, the way it was written and everything, it's such a great film. Absolutely.
Yes, sir. And so that was my first introduction to samurai culture, and it was kind of crazy because the main character, Agami Ito, or Ito Agami, how we would say it, he was a executioner that was exiled, basically falsely accused, and he has a son. So he's traveling around with his son in a stroller, and these like samurai are like hired to like try to take him out. So there's a lot of combat in the movies, and I was like, man, that's so cool, right? And so that like you said, just addicted me to that culture and learning about it. And so I was doing research, and I actually spent 2 years in Korea, and I got closer to Japan doing that. And I found out about this guy named Oda Nobunaga.
Oh yeah.
All right. And so Oda Nobunaga was a shogun. You know, he unified Japan in his, I want to say the 15th century. Don't quote me on that. I'm not a history buff, but I just like his story. Mm-hmm. And Oda Nobunaga unified 7 other like shogun lords of Japan, and like nobody had ever done that before. But he did it using unconventional methods. Like he is coined as the guy who allowed the first non-Japanese samurai, Yasuke, to become a samurai. He also is known as the first shogun to allow female samurais, and they call them the Nobu Geisha. Not just geisha, but the Nobu Geisha. And so he was breaking all these rules. And that intrigued me because my kennel ties into that, because I broke all the rules. Originally, the American Pitbull Terrier was bred not to be human aggressive, but to be highly dog aggressive. My dogs have all the blood and skills that they were used for in the history, and the bloodlines that I use, we'll talk about later, the bloodlines that I use can do all of that. But I train my dogs to be service dogs. My dog is, Saki is my service dog, and he's also protection trained. Right now, his daughter, Kamikaze, is being trained to be a scent work dog. And a specific task I'm going to have her trained to do is find my television remote and find me another beer. I love what you said about the Tao Chi Kundo, and I kind of wanted to go into exactly what you're talking about right now. And so I'll give you this. So I'm an advocate for the ADBA. I'm an advocate for anybody who's dealing with any bully breed. Let me say that first and foremost. But like some of these guys they're like game bred. So, you know, I renounced, my kennel name used to be Samurai Kennels Modern Game Dogs. Now my kennel name is Samurai Kennels Williams Old Yeller Dogs. Because what I've realized is that if somebody has a sentimental bond with your product, i.e., I'm gonna broach this name, Dark Dynasty K9, for example.
Sure.
I'm not gonna say what he has or what he does not have, but people deal with Marlin because of Marlin and his dogs, not because of the label on the dogs.
Absolutely. Thank you. I love that.
And so when people deal with me, they're gonna go, okay, like Andre is very, very honest. He'll tell you what he doesn't know. But also, I took one of my old Yeller dogs that are, by the way, my bloodlines. So I just want to throw this out there. The dogs I bred are G. Brasco Red Boy on top with Frisco Spike. So Tom Garner's blood on the bottom, Joe Woodle, Pitbull Island's blood on top. Very, very well-bred, game-bred dogs, right? Mm-hmm. However, when I went to the show, I actually took best opposite, which is, you know, like, so you have best in show, which is either a male or a female. The best opposite is just the best opposite gender in the show. My first ever ADBA show, going there and I went best male over all these guys who are both show and game dog breeders, you know, generationally. And I'm a first generation, like, really showman as far as handling, conditioning for a show, all of that stuff, right?
Absolutely.
And everything I've done has been unconventional. I even do this thing called canny cross to get in shape with my dogs, where my dog is tied to my waist, and we're just like doing cross country together. You know, it's so when you talk about the Tao Jeet Kune Do and how Bruce Lee not only developed a martial art which consumed all other martial arts, but he would challenge the other ones to show them that his way was more efficient. I love that, man.
Break down a little further what you mean by that as far as cross country. Do you actually like did some kind of marathon with your dog?
So I'll typically do anywhere from a 5K to a 10K a week with my dog. I mean, I'm trying to create a group where we can get our Apple Watches, so like you can track my progress, because I like the accountability for that. Where I share my progress, my workouts. If I go to the gym and work out, it reports it. And my little group on my base, you know, they'll go, "Hey man, you've been slacking. You haven't been to the gym this week. You need to get out there and get active." You know, there's an accountability for that, but also activates the community, right? But yes, so Candy Cross, you can order it off Amazon. It's a waistband with a bungee cord. It goes from 4 foot to 7 foot, so your dog can get ahead of you. And when I'm going up elevations, it's cool because my dog is on a harness. So when we're going uphill and I'm kind of slowing down, my dog is pulling me up the hill. Well, when we go downhill, I then have to control my abdominal muscles so that my dog isn't snatching me down the hill and I don't fall. So it's a very good like push-pull kind of thing with your dog. And while I'm conditioning my dog, I'm also getting in shape, because I see a lot of guys with their dogs on treadmills, and the dog is in great shape, but they're not.
Because that can help you catch up. You know, if you got places you can hike, you got places you can run, or even jog at a slow pace. Man, your dog wants to do everything you want to do. So just go do it. I saw this one quote. It was a meme on Facebook. And it said, "Skip the gym, go walk a shelter dog." And that's another thing you could do. I mean, why not, right?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. The upside to that, not only could you walk them, but I train, man. So being able to be involved with stuff like that, man, that's to get the opportunity. If you train a shelter dog to sit, that might get that dog adopted, man. You never know like the second and third order effects of your movements. But I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's great. I'm glad you said that. Now, okay. Is there a reason you chose the blood you chose, or did that just kind of fall into your lap? What's the story there?
So you actually covered it very well. And so Lee Robinson, I follow him. Also, I follow you too. Humble brag on you, but I've been following you for a long time, and I really felt like you interviewed great people. So I figure if I get interviewed by you, that would make me great, right? But
I really appreciate that, man. My whole thing is, I know you're just starting. And you've said that, and I love your humble attitude, and I love, you know, everything that you and me have talked about so far, just through messages and then on the phone before the interview. Every dog man deserves a seat at the table, bro, and that's what I'm here to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
But I'm gonna get back to that question you asked me too, bro. So the blood, it's so, dude, like. I feel like we got to talk more offline, but anyways, for the purposes of this interview and to keep it flowing, the bloodlines I chose were researched on Pitbull forums, talking to old dog men, and asking the exact question you said about Mr. Robinson's dogs. I went and found bloodlines like Bert Sorrell's blood, rest in peace to Bert Sorrells, that had the propensity to be excited biters, not just man biters. So the bloodlines I used, Jeep, Rascal, those are Bully Son dogs. Bully Son was known to be kind of a weirdo. He would bite people when he got excited or when he couldn't get to his quarry. Even on the Frisco side, for Frisco's the son of Chinaman, Chinaman was known to be an excited biter. When he got excited, he would nip at you to get loose to go get whatever he wanted. So I said, okay, these dogs are not inherently man aggressive. These specific bloodlines I want to use are just dogs that, when they are really, really spun up, will just bite whatever's in front of them. Now, understanding the science behind that and breeding, also Chinaman and Jeep and Honey Bunch are all loosely related, because the Bully Son dog produced Honey Bunch and Jeep and the Rascal dogs, whereas Eli Jr. produced Chinaman, but they both are sons of Eli, Bully Son and Eli Jr. So all my dogs, when you look at the science behind it, the line breeding, I just bred dogs that were cousins that had the same personality types at the end. Very athletic, could be excited into biting a human. And therein is how I use my training method I excite my dog, I excite it on whatever I want to excite it on. If it was a hog, it would be a hog. My dogs aren't inherently trying to bite a person, they're just excited to go forward.
Okay. Well, that brings me to another question. Now, you, with your military background, I'm sure you've come in contact with a lot of either Shepherds or Malinois. How would you compare? I'm saying if you have, if not, correct me. But how would you compare the Malinois to the American Pitbull Terrier?
Another great question. So my first interaction with the Malinois was back in 2013 in Kuwait. I was there doing a 6.5 month tour, and I was doing security detail. They were building buildings over there. I was working with some Egyptians, the people from Bangladesh, and we had to go through our line combatives training. So, we had to learn how to fight with our weapon to ensure if somebody tried to take our M9 or our M4, we could beat them with or without our weapon, right?
Sure.
And part of that training was we got in the fat boy suit, we got pepper sprayed, we did all that stuff, and we got in the fat boy suit, and the cop he sends the Malinois. This is a 70-pound dog, and it hits me, and I mean he is wrecking me through this suit, and he gives him the out command, and this dog springs back, right? And I'm like, man, I don't know what that was, but I want to learn that. So that was the trainer bug right there. 10 years ago, I wanted to be a trainer. So flash forward, 2017, I was deployed to Afghanistan for 6.5 months. Come back, I did all my research, took all these little online courses on dog training. I go out and get me a AMPV Malinois Shepherd cross named BJ. And I got this dog home at 6.5 months. I threw a tennis ball. He went and got it, brought it back and set it at my feet. And I was like, okay, I've owned pit bulls since I was 9 years old, and I've never seen one do that. So I was excited. He made me look good. I trained him to heel. This dog could have easily been a Schutzen too, easily. And I got video. I can send you the video. It could have easily been a Schutzen too, but it wasn't the pit bull. It wasn't the dog of my heart. It was just a dog that made me feel confident that I could do the training, that I understood the training. So in comparison, yes, very athletic dog, but this dog actually was a man biter, if that makes sense. My pit bulls will bite a man, but my Malinois and Shepherds that I met are apprehensive, and they will just snap. If they don't know you're bit, like the attack trained ones, they are, because they are focused on the man. My pit bulls are like, hey, don't bother me, don't bother my boss, we're good. You could walk in my house right now and pet my dogs as long as I don't say the kill word, or as long as I'm present. If I'm not present, then they've been trained to just, do their thing, right?
Absolutely.
They're much more balanced. The pit bull is much more balanced. Okay. And I say that because the KMPV line Shepherds I'm talking about, we were getting them from overseas until they picked up the military breeding program in San Antonio, Texas. So we were getting them from overseas, and they were coming over here like ready to just tear your face off. And then we just put a little bit of control in there, and we put them on duty. That's what the Shepherds were like. Whereas the pit bull, it's an open field, and that's why I'm trying to get more people involved now, because they really are a good balanced dog. Mr. Richard Stratton said it best. He says, or actually John P. Colby, this is a Colby quote. He said that the American Pit Bull Terrier can do everything every other dog can do, plus whoop it.
Yeah, it's funny. I heard Madison Parker say that, and I also heard Pat Patrick say that in our conversations. I like what you said. They are well balanced. The American Pit Bull Terrier, in my experience, and I've had a few game dogs. I didn't work them that way or anything. It's just I had a few dogs from game lines, and I've had some dogs from the UKC lines, and they were so balanced, like to the point where my daughter, she's 15 now, but back when she was 2-3 years old, she's laying on the couch with them, pulling on their ears, watching her Disney movies, and I don't want her watching Disney anymore, for fuck's sakes. But anyway, you know what I mean? They were more balanced, whereas a Malinois or a Shepherd, and I grew up with a couple Shepherds, and they are snappy. Real German Shepherds, like import blood Shepherds, are very, very snappy. Just like the Malinois has to be trained constantly. The Shepherd, not so much, but it does have to be trained pretty often to understand what is okay and what isn't. I have a Rottweiler now. He's one of the greatest dogs I've ever owned, but I do not trust him around children. I don't. I just don't.
Yes, that's wise.
Yeah, you see what I mean. It seems
I did
like
wanna.
It
I
seems
want to
like
interrupt you again, bro.
the
And the reason I want to interrupt you is I'm so jealous. When I found out what a band dog was, I'm so jealous because honestly, and I don't want to lose the subject, but it's, man, for those of y'all who don't know what a band dog is, I'm certain if you're following this channel, you know, but the band dog is literally function first. Does it
absolutely,
do what I bred it to do?
absolutely.
And then man, I'm so jealous. If I could get a band dog right now, I guarantee I could take it to a PSA or Shetson level 3 easily.
Right.
Easily.
You know, I'm gonna keep it real for the people that are listening and the people that know me. I advertise my dogs as band dog puppies, but it's a boar bull to a OG classic bully bitch with some fire behind her. I didn't prove out anything. Only thing I know is when they see somebody at the gate or they see somebody they don't know, they want to hurt that person. That's all I know so far. So if that's not to your standards is what as far as what a band dog is, then I'm sorry for that. But I called it the Lawton Bulldog Project because it's a lot of heavy bulldog blood. You know, bulldog type boar bull, which there's 4 types of boar bull that I find that to be insane, but it is what it is. Now, let me ask you this: why won't you consider at some point maybe, I don't know, a Neo or a Corso or something? Would you ever consider that, like to cross over as a band dog?
So this is my problem. One, because I'm limited on dogs, and I'm dead set on creating a specific bloodline that, like the Williams dog, you know, like how you have the old family reds and the hemp hill dogs and things like that. My ego says I want to do that, right? Also fear, because both of the communities I'm like broaching in my way into, the American Pitbull Terrier community and the protection sport communities, they're both like full of like, man, you ever been to a gun range before?
Yes.
All right, so if you showed up at a gun range with a high point, how do you think you'd be received at that gun range? Most of the time. All right.
High point, yeah. I've had a couple high points when I was first getting into guns because they were so cheap. But
They shoot okay.
They don't.
But
they're not a bad weapon, but you still get looked at a certain way. Like, man, he brought his ghetto ass high point, and
that's exactly why I haven't done anything outside of sticking to the script.
I had to modify my high points.
Because of fear is why I haven't crossed over to anything else, man. Because honestly, with what I'm trying to do, there's a guy in Arizona where I'm at right now that does that. He takes the best game bred pit bulls. It's called Arizona City. I'll have to find this information. But he does that. His dogs, they look like old family red, like giant old family reds, almost like Camelot dogs. And they will take down coyotes. They will take down everything. They are exactly what I'm trying to breed my pit bulls to do. But he skipped ahead years by adding other blood into the bloodline.
Why not? You've already defeated the odds. You've been on how many tours?
Three overseas tours, man.
You've been on tours already, man. You've defeated the odds. Not only that, I've said this, don't quote me, I believe, I might be paraphrasing a little bit, but there's 400 trillion to 1 odds. 400 trillion to 1 odds that you're even born and have a life. So you're already winning. You're already lucky. The odds are stacked in your favor already. So if you got to piss some pit bull terrier people off, fuck it. You know, like, do your thing. Sorry, I went on a rant there. I don't know. I feel juiced.
It was good.
I feel juiced up by this conversation. I'm not gonna lie.
You said something else that really inspired me, man. Because you said you got the Lawton family bulldogs, right? And so my thing is the Williams Old Yeller dogs, and you know that came. Oh God, sorry, but it came from a Disney movie. But the concept, that dog Old Yeller was everything I think a dog should be. If you listen to that song at the beginning of that old ass movie from 1935, wherever it came out, that Old Yeller was a hunter, Old Yeller was a fighter, Old Yeller was a lover, Old Yeller got into trouble. You know, like Old Yeller did everything.
I've never actually seen it. I probably should have seen it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, man, it's kind of sad at the end, man. You know, it has a sad ending, but
he had to
if
put
you
him
watch
down,
it,
right?
Watch what the dog does. So they find this old. I think he's a golden a yellow lab in the movie, but I think it would have actually been a pit bull. Anyways, to synopsis it for you, so we can have a common ground. Old Yeller is a mangy dog that comes roaming along into this ranch down in wherever, I think they're in Texas. And the father of these two kids and his wife on a homestead, he has to go on a cattle drive. So this dog comes around, and the dog is just doing stuff. You know, at first he's a nuisance. He's killing chickens and breaking eggs and things. But then there's a day where, like a bear, there's a bear or a cougar, there's a couple of different animals. They come onto this farm, and because they've been feeding him and taking care of him, Old Yeller fights the bear, he fights the boar, he fights a bobcat. You know, he helps the little kid catch catfish out of the little stream. He does all this stuff. He's just a great dog. You know, he was a mutt. But he was just a good old scoundrel mutt that came onto a ranch and was a good ranch helping dog, right? In my mind, because you also talk about bugging out. In my mind, that's what you need when it comes time for us to bug out, is a dog like that. Not just a dog that's going to bite people's faces off, not just a dog that can kill other animals, but a dog that can decipher, hey, like, this is the homestead, this animal's a friendly, or I need to limit what I destroy on this homestead. I can't just be killing the chickens because we'll run out of food. You know, that's a smart dog.
Mm. You know, that's what I always respected about some of these guys who breed the American Bulldogs is they're very strict on breeding the American Bulldog as a farm dog. And man, they're fucking good, man. They're really good. There's one guy, he's not so much into it anymore, but he still has a few dogs. He just doesn't really breed anymore. But man, he has pigs, chickens, he grows crops, all these different things, and there's threats from all around his property, and he's got some good dogs, man, and they really do their job. It's like, at the end of the day, can you ask for anything more? I mean, if it's something that is cool with your children, that's first and foremost.
Yes.
You know, if it's cool with the children, the kids could walk up and grab him by the collar, come here, puppy. You know, they still think it's just a big puppy. Come here, puppy, and they grab the collar and they'll walk him around and whatever and have some fun with him. But the dog still recognizes, okay, there's hawks circling up top and there's chickens here. And this guy told me these stories of, I'm not going to name drop, but this guy told me these stories where his American Bulldogs were just right there. Like, I dare one of these hawks to come down any further. Like, I dare you. Because, and they have the power to destroy. You know, like, they have that power in them. That's another thing, as far as the American Bulldog and the American Pitbull Terrier, I've been trying to squeeze it in and get the research in for this docu-series I've been working on, which, I don't know if you've seen it or not, I'm only 3 episodes in. I did the introduction, I did the Bulldog episode, and I did the Terrier episode. But I'm trying to figure out exactly when and where the American Bulldog and the American Pitbull Terrier were related. Because I know for a fact they were. I know for a fact they were in more ways than one, because I know that some of the dogs that bent to the box, some of those real game dogs, I know for a fact some of them had what you would call Bulldog or Old Southern White or whatever you'd call these dogs. I know for a fact they had that in there.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find the exact point of, you know, where it was, when it was, and how it happened. Because, you know, back in these backwoods, they just bred what worked to what worked. There was no, well, this is a Bulldog, this is a Pit Bull. There was none of that, you know, once upon a time. So I know for a fact that, you know, American Bulldogs had to be in the heritage, and I know in the American Bulldogs, Pit Bulls, American Pitbull Terriers had to be a part of the heritage.
Yeah, and so I couldn't tell you when or where. I 100% agree. Bull Terriers, American Bulldogs, the Staffies, obviously, all of those things were used for whatever they needed. If they needed more size, they might add this. They needed more tenacity. I think even like the Patterdales might have been added into there. For some of those smaller ones, people say they love those little smaller dogs. That's probably why.
Absolutely.
The people who originally crossed it in there were like, yeah, the smaller dogs are better. No, they just wanted to go into game that was smaller that met their criteria, right?
Sure.
But I've been told by old school dog men and box men that they would even put Rottweiler into they would even put Rottweiler into their blood to intensify it a little bit, and they would breed 4 or 5 generations to try to wash out some of the heavier traits of the Rottweiler. But they maintained that tenacity because Rottweiler is a stronger dog typically.
Yeah. So, okay, you got 2 dogs. Walk me through a little bit of what your feeding regiment looks like.
Oh man, this is a good. All these questions are great questions because once again, constant flux. So when I started off, I fed only Diamond dog food with maybe like egg or.
I feed Diamond now.
And oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I just I'll explain to you why I swapped off a Diamond. But so I was like, I'm not doing the raw thing. People are doing the raw thing. It's a fad. It's just like a keto diet,
Yeah.
And so I had a partner of mine about 2 years ago. He's like, hey man, have you ever thought about doing raw? And I was like, man, get out of here with that craziness, man. Like kibble and maybe some supplements, maybe some dine or something like that. Just very little things. Maybe a little bit of raw into their kibble, but nothing like. Not enough to be a meal by it stand alone. I'd add rice and things like that, cooked food,
sure.
Spinach and things like that, right? So I get ready and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna jump into one of these ADBA shows. So I contacted one of the breeders for my dog, and I was like, hey, you used to be a box man back in the day. Like, what was your keep? What did you do? And so he gave me a list of things to go buy, and it was a lot of raw food, and we removed kibble. By the end of the keep, we were completely no kibble at all, right? And so now I'm a 50-50 guy after seeing the results. His energy levels went up, and the thing about the raw that I like, or the natural feeding that I like, is the poop is more biodegradable, which means that the logs are smaller. They're typically more firm, and if for some reason, like if I go to a park and I don't have a poop bag, like it actually breaks down really. It's actually breaks down like real like wildlife poop. Like it's not processed, and therefore it actually breaks down really really easily. Whereas when I'm feeding them kibble, it'll turn white and it'll just stay there, and eventually turns to concrete and powder, and then 6 months later it's finally gone. Like I don't see that with the raw feeding. But 2, I was using Diamond, but when I moved out of the Carolinas, the stores that have Diamond like Tractor Supply were more spread out. So I went to Rachel Ray's no grain feed, and then Rachel Ray figured out, okay, that was a new fad. Everybody's using no grain. I've used no grain for forever. I've always been told no corn, no soy meal since I was a kid. Right? Mm-hmm. And so I found a food, and I use this food called Pure Balance. It's Walmart brand, and I can find it everywhere. That's why I use it, because I'll never not have it available to me in any neighborhood Walmart, right? They have a bison diet, a salmon diet, and that's 50% of my dog's meal. And then I do chicken and organ 5 days a week. So it'll be maybe like a half a cup to a cup in the morning of kibble, depending on how lean they're looking. If I need to add more kibble, kibble is my filler. And then I'll go a leg quarter or a wing and a thigh, and I'll take a couple sardines out, drop those in there for omega fatty acids, and whatever else I think they need. Typically spinach, because also everything I give my dog raw, if it's cooked, I'll eat it myself. Even down to like the hot dogs I use for training. Like I don't feed my dogs anything I don't eat. It kind of goes back to that working out thing where I live with my dogs. Like if the world was to end tomorrow today, like my dogs would be sleeping in a room with me and my family to make sure while we're sleeping there's somebody there keeping watch over us, right? Like we're a team. Mm-hmm. And so everything I feed my dogs, maybe I can't eat it as raw as they're eating it, but it's still food. Like the same pack of chicken I broke out to give them a couple of wings, I can fry that up tonight for dinner. You know what I'm saying? It's that quality.
Absolutely.
And then on Wednesdays and Sundays, the days that I used to go to Bible study and go to church, right? Those are the days where I feed beef or red meat, because red meat is really rich. And even though you could feed it every day, I've noticed that it makes my dogs hold weight longer, and it makes them more lethargic the day after. So I give it to them on the days. I go live on Wednesdays, and I do like weekly wrap ups every day. So anytime I release a video on YouTube, that's when I feed the beef and stuff because I'm kind of busy that day. So it kind of just slows them down a little bit for me, the digestive system. And the creatine in the meat helps them look nice and healthy going into the week.
Okay.
So that's my basic feeding regimen right there.
Explain to people what you do on YouTube and give them your YouTube name so they can look you up.
Absolutely. So my YouTube channel is Samurai Kennels Williams Old Yeller Dogs, and that's OL apostrophe Yeller YELLER dogs. And what I've done is I started in 2021. I'll be at 2 years next month. I started off, and it just started off with me in the garage talking about what I wanted to do. I wanted to raise an American Pitbull Terrier that I bred myself, which is Saki. The first ever breeding I ever did was Saki. And I wanted to train him to be a protection dog. At 14 months, he was where I needed him to be what I consider a protector for my family. He could sit down, recall when called back to me, and we did a scenario in a park, my buddy and I, where I said, hey, man, my dog doesn't know you. I need you to come to this park after dark, and I need you to hide and just jump out and see how he responds to you opposing a real threat, or in his mind, it's a real threat. And at 14 months old, my dog, he did exactly what he was trained to do. He went into he lived at the end of the leash, and he showed true civil aggression. Like, hey, like if I was getting mugged at 4 a.m., like he was going to be on go mode. After we accomplished that, my next goal was I wanted to prove that my dogs were also the standard. So I wanted to compete in confirmation shows, and I show my whole journey. I give a before, during, and after action report on what it feels like to go into your first ever confirmation show. Because remember, I'm a novice. I'm a greenhorn dog at all of this. And so that same that same diet I was talking about with earlier, I went and found an actual dog, an old school dog fighter, a dog man that used that keep for an old school competition. And I said, well, if it worked in the box, I don't see why it wouldn't work, for a confirmation show. So the keep was a real keep. My dog looked like he was really going into a match when I went to the show, and the judges appreciated that, right? So there's so many different things. I just want to share what it's like to be new and not know what you're doing. And I share one of the things I talk about a lot that people won't talk about is feelings. What I felt like, that's what my channel is about. What does it feel like to do something new? Because the military has set me up to be very confident. So even when I go into a new environment, I start analyzing how many exits are there, how many people were there, who do I think's armed. I'm assessing all that stuff anyways. So everywhere I go, it's like that. So when I go into these situations, I know what people feel like when they feel uncomfortable, because my first time out of the country in Kuwait, the first time a Middle Eastern person talked to me, I was ready to shoot him. And it's not a hate thing. It was just I don't know you. I don't know what this situation is going to do. All I know is I'm going to be ready, right? That's Absolutely. What people feel when they're in fear. So when I talk to people, I speak on my channel, or when I'm talking to people, I don't try to sound like cool. I talk to them like a person. And every person has the ability, like you were saying, man, you said so many great things, but you were talking about finding a student, and every student's not going to be the same. So there are some people who are really high level and they can train dogs really well. There are some people who are just happy to get their dog to walk beside them on a leash. And both of those people deserve respect, because it's not what you can do, it's how you can articulate that message to somebody else who's just like you or is going through that same problem. That's how you become a mentor. And that's what my channel is about, being a mentor and making better people. Because when you get better people, you'll get better dogs.
Very well said. Very well said. Can you go in deeper as far as you said, you were talking about supplementing, and do you supplement regularly?
Okay, so as far as supplements go, it depends on what my activities are, right? Bro, I'm saying your questions are perfect in line with my life. It may not be a bought supplement, but I'll increase calcium. I'll increase my carbohydrates. I'll get more rice. I'll add a little bit of dine or a little bit of mayonnaise for extra fats, and I'll give things like oysters. But a lot of my supplementing is natural. I don't really give creatine to my dogs or anything like that. I try to get it from their dieting, just because a lot of the supplements aren't designed for that. The only other powder form that I'll use is Bully Max. I'll feed a little bit of Bully Max in there as well, just because it's naturally formulated for dogs, right? But that's about it. But yeah, my supplementing is, hey, like the manganese that comes out of smoked oysters is great for them. So I'll throw that in there. And that's not typically in their diet to get them ready for a show. Or if I was going to do a weight pull competition, I'll feed more red meat so they get more of that creatine and more of those healthy fats and hold that weight to help them pull down that sled, or down that track.
So
that's my supplement. Yes, sir.
I was going to say, okay, so I've heard a bunch about Bully Max. No disrespect to Bully Max at all, but I've always thought because of, how they put, the photos of, who is that, Vader?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's one of Fabian's like grandbabies to Remy, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I always wondered, like, what are the real benefits there? Like, cause I don't know, and I'm not gonna talk shit about a company. It's just I see it everywhere, but I'm always like, in my head, I guess I might be a little biased, but in my head, I'm just like, man, what is that really gonna do? Is that just another dog food? Are they just pushing it based on the picture on the front? What's the deal there? What is Bully Max, and how have you seen it benefit your dogs?
Good question. So for me, and to answer your question, I don't think you have a bias. I think you just have a healthy skepticism. There's a supplement for people called
I like how you said that.
Called a mass weight gainer, right?
Sure.
And if you take a mass weight gainer and you don't actually do things that require you to have extra, because all it is more carbohydrates, more energy for you to work out longer, right? Or like creatine, creatine helps you get more reps in. It doesn't actually make you stronger. It allows you to break down the muscle fibers to a greater depth because of more repetitions, right?
Okay.
So if you're using something like Bully Max, which is basically a bunch of carbohydrates for your dog, and you're not doing activities with your dog to help burn those carbohydrates off to turn them into energy to help with protein synthesis, then it'll do nothing for you. If you just feed it to your dog and you're like, yeah, I'm going to feed this to my dog because it's really, really high calorie food with high protein, high carbohydrates, you'll see no benefit at all. However, with me doing the cross country with my dog, letting my dog pull weights across the yard, I do cycling with my dog, all of this stuff, he needs that extra carbohydrate. He needs those extra carbohydrates because his body temperature, he's burning more calories. And so by burning those calories and breaking down his muscle fibers, just like a person, you will see him start to muscle up more. And I like my bulldogs to look a little overdone. But Bully's son was an overdone bulldog, which is another reason why I picked him, because I don't mind a barrel-chested dog. I like a manly-looking, almost staffy-looking bulldog.
Absolutely. Actually, when I look back, and I did that interview with Fabian, who owned Remy Martin, out of the Bully stuff, that was my favorite dog. He was
mine too.
He looked like a man's dog, and when he barked, man, that one snapshot they got of him, they said that quote, that one photo shook the world, and I was just like, well, damn, I can't disagree with that. I cannot. That was an impressive dog, and I said to Fabian, I would have liked him 4 or 5 inches taller. But outside of that, man, Remy was, oh God, like,
yeah, he was it.
That was it. That was it right there. I would have had him in back then what they called XL, not by today's standards. Back then, I would have preferred him XL. Like if he was just literally, if you photoshopped him just by stretching the photo up to where he was 4 or 5 inches taller, that would have looked more like a man stopper to me.
When they were just supposed to be intimidating pit bulls, really muscled up, extreme exaggerated pit bulls.
When's your next breeding planned?
My next planned breeding is 2025.
And why is that?
Because the puppy that I just bred, Kamikaze, the female keeper that I kept off my last litter, I bred her with the intent of her being a scent work dog that I could use for basic scent work, and this is going to be tracking scent work, because if she proves that she can do that, then that's something I want to add into my line. So I would outcross her, and that would be a litter available off of her when she's proven that she can do basic scent work. Now, my logic behind this is I want to have dogs that can do all of the shuts and requirements, which is going to be the scent work, personal protection, and obedience. Her father, Saki, is going up for his Canine Good Citizen this year, which is through the AKC. Basically, just says your dog is a well-behaved animal, and he's already done. And he's already done he's already done obedience. He's already done confirmation. I just need some titles now to solidify the validity of me being able to say that yes, he is a dog that can be trained up. With Kamikaze, I need her to do scent work and prove that she can be trained up. Because, and I can say it and I can do these things, but I need a certain rubric to show to what degree I can do it. And once she's proven that in 2 years, I'll add her into a breeding program and I will breed her to an outcross, because Saki is not only her dad, but he's her brother. So they're bred super tight. There's no outside genes for me to pour into. So I must go into an out. And what I will be looking for is to breed to somebody else who does protection work like Saki does, so that I'm keeping those same traits. Because I believe that if you can target gameness, which is an elusive trait, why would I not be able to target those other great qualities that the dogs can do?
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm thinking outside the box here. But if I were you, and I think about everything you just said, man, I would go straight to Lee's stuff. I would go to his Pitbull stuff, Lucky 7 or Frankie Bomp. That tight Sorrel stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Pure Sorrel's blood, or to a really, really well-bred Mayday dog for the size. Because for that man-stopping ability, Mayday, and I think he has Mayday and Red Boy dogs too, if I'm not mistaken. He did a episode on his game bred stock, and I want to say he has all those dogs on his yard.